a teenager in pajamas, an old laptop, and an internet connection that quietly unleashed global chaos. Can a single young man, isolated in a humble London neighborhood, take on the FBI, the CIA, and governments around the world? Mustafa al-Bassam wasn't a terrorist. He wasn't a spy either. He was something even more dangerous. A genius with access to code. How did he go from being one of the UK's most wanted cyber criminals to a respected scientist fighting for online privacy and the future of blockchain? Today, you'll see how a 16-year-old nobody became the cyber nightmare of global intelligence. Stay with us. This story redefines power in the digital age, the birth of a curious mind. His story doesn't begin with a police raid or a glowing LED keyboard. It begins in Baghdad. 1995. Mustafa is born in the midst of Iraq's political turmoil. At age 6, his family migrates to London. A cramped East End apartment, poverty, anonymity, and a curiosity that knew no bounds. His Middle Eastern parents worked double shifts to keep the family afloat, never imagining the legacy their son would forge. While other kids kicked footballs, Mustafa was fascinated by computers and video games, taking consoles apart to see what was inside. He wanted to understand not just the game, but the machine. At 8, his father buys him a used computer. Mustafa starts tinkering with code in Microsoft Front Page. At 10, while doing math homework, he rewrites the source code of an online calculator, just out of curiosity. By 12, he finds his first invisible mentors on YouTube. While the world slept, he mastered Python, JavaScript, and hacker ethics. He didn't do it for money, not for fame. He did it because he could. And our first steps into hacking. At 13, he slips into encrypted forums, fast, silent, ingenious. And in those digital back alleys, a name appears, Teflow. Inspired by an old underground comic, The Flow, it wasn't just a handle, it was a shield, a legend, a promise of absolute power in cyberspace. Soon, on dark netboards, he began dropping small exploits. Every line of code was a calling card that earned him respect and fear. LulzSec and the digital chaos. That was only the start of a journey that would take him much further. He became part of LulzSec, one of the most notorious hacker collectives in history, a group that didn't just breach systems, it publicly mocked its victims. Late April 2011, Teflow is 16. He recruits 5 brilliant allies. Together they form LulzSec, a splinter cell of Anonymous, small, lethal, bound by an unwritten pact. Infiltrate any system, never get caught. Their missions, leaking emails from government agencies and tech giants, became urban legend. LulzSec took down in that single year Fox.com, Sony Pictures, Infrared FBI, CIA.gov, Senate.gov, and leaked millions of passwords, all for the lulz. Here's a timeline of the hits you heard about. May 10th, 2011, LulzSec's first large-scale strike. Fox.com collapses. Thousands of passwords and user data spill out in seconds. No warning, no mercy. June 3rd, Sony Pictures. A simple surgical SQL injection exposes over 1 million accounts, emails, passwords, personal data, an entertainment empire violated by a handful of teens. June 5th, Target, Infrared, the FBI's civilian intel arm. Result, total defacement, internal emails dumped. The government never saw it coming. June 13th, U.S. Senate, Senate.gov. No need to breach firewalls. One minor flaw was enough to list system files and reveal internal paths. No sensitive user data taken, but the message was clear. We're inside. June 15th, CIA.gov. A coordinated DDoS knocks the site offline for over an hour. From Twitter, LulzSec taunts. Let's see how secure the CIA really is. Anti-sec. The world watches. The CIA replies with uneasy silence, calling it only a moderate traffic flood. June 20th, LulzSec unites with Anonymous to launch Operation Anti-sec, the most ambitious digital campaign of its time. First target, Britain's Serious Organized Crime Agency, SOCA, now the NCA. In 45 minutes, the portal is down. Tango down, SOCA for the Lulz. Mustafa Teflow, Bassam, is later named a conspirator, pleading guilty months after. June 25th, they announce the 50 days of Lulz. 50 consecutive days of digital mayhem. Media, governments, corporations, nobody is safe. They don't want money or revenge, just the spectacle. And in the middle of it all, Teflow, silent, brilliant, dangerous. They prove neither the CIA, nor the FBI, nor the planet's most guarded agencies were safe from a kid with Wi-Fi and a hunger for notoriety. The world had never seen anything this fast, unpredictable, or this young. Betrayal and the fall. LulzSec seemed untouchable. Constant attacks, perfect anonymity, but they never planned for one weakness: betrayal. June 7th, 2011. Hector Sabu Monsegur, LulzSec co-founder and anonymous icon, is arrested in his Bronx apartment. He quickly flips and cooperates with the FBI, becoming the greatest informant in hacker history. Internal chats, passwords, member IDs. Nothing escapes his leaks. One by one, LulzSec pillars topple. Jake Davis, topiary, is arrested and sentenced in the UK. Jeremy Hammond is sentenced in the US to 10 years for attacks on Stratfor and more. After Sabu's betrayal, Teflow learned the greatest threat could come from within. He migrated all channels to private servers across 3 countries, accessible only via public key SSH. He created mutual auth protocols. Every outgoing message carried a crypto signature. An intruder could never impersonate a legit member without the right key. Finally, his loyalty test. Only those who solved an exploit he designed, within a time limit, kept access. Each arrest was a lesson. Each line of code became armor. Trust isn't given. It's encrypted, verified, and guarded. But the noose tightened. LulzSec was now a high-value target. Doors slammed shut. Time was running out, and one member was left, the youngest, the most calculating, the most watched. Arrest and sentencing. The game couldn't last forever. The FBI teamed with 3 British agencies. GCHQ traced the digital breadcrumbs. The National Crime Agency coordinated the organized crime probe. Scotland Yard made the local grab. July 19th, 2011. In the quiet hours of Leighton, police surround Mustafa's home. He's 16 years and 8 months old, wearing pajamas. No resistance, no violence, just an unusually large operation for the neighborhood. Handcuffed, escorted to a cell. A stormy new chapter begins. April 2013. Nearly 2 years later, the verdict. Mustafa pleads guilty to Computer Misuse Act charges, DDoS attacks, and data theft. Sentence: 20 months in a young offender facility, suspended. 320 hours of community service teaching digital literacy. No unsupervised internet access for almost 2 years. For an 18-year-old, those restrictions were more than punishment. They severed him from the very tool that made him famous. And that could have been the end. But it wasn't. Hey, if you've made it this far, you know this isn't a typical tale. Stories like Mustafa's aren't told every day. So if you want more, hit subscribe and join us each week, from hacker to scientist. After sentencing, Mustafa makes a radical choice: turn punishment into knowledge. He leaves behind cuffs and community service, but never forgets the code that gave him power. When the restrictions lift, he pivots from breaking systems to protecting them. He joins Privacy International, working on global projects defending digital privacy for millions, exposing unchecked surveillance and crafting audits that lock down personal data. At the same time, he consults for Secure Trading, a leading fintech, hardening every transaction with the same offensive tactics he once used against corporations. 2016, Forbes lists him in 30 under 30 in technology. He earns his degree, publishes research, and co-founds ChainSpace, a smart contract blockchain that scales to millions of transactions. Proof an ex-hacker can redefine blockchain's future. 2019, Facebook acquires ChainSpace. Mustafa joins the team behind Libra. From teenage fugitive to sought-after expert, his path shows knowledge, channeled well, can turn mistakes into milestones. 2020, he completes a PhD at University College London, securely scaling blockchain-based layers, laying foundations for safer, scalable networks. His name shifts from breach headlines to international conferences. Celestia Labs, 2021. Mustafa launches Celestia Labs, a new modular vision for blockchain, scalable, resilient, flexible. Today, Celestia's network processes thousands of data blocks every hour, powering 30-plus active apps, DeFi platforms, censorship-resistant IDs, and more. Adoption of modular chains is expected to top 15% of all on-chain transactions by 2026, and the work of that 16-year-old teenager will be a pillar of the new internet. Mustafa doesn't hide his past. TED Talks, interviews, conferences on open-source power, hacker ethics, and the need for government transparency. He champions an internet that remains open, secure, and free from mass surveillance, from code that breaks to code that protects. What was once a crime became a passion for security. Teflow teaches us that knowledge is neutral, and we choose to build or destroy. The lesson is clear. Mistakes can be lessons, falls, springboards, and redemption often begins by realizing the code that breaks.